Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are really glad to have you here because today we're tackling something that I think everyone feels,
Oh, absolutely.
even if you don't quite have the words for it yet. We're looking at this massive elephant in the room paradox of modern.
It really is the defining paradox of our generation, honestly.
It is. I mean, think about it. We have more tools, more AI, more automation, more productivity hacks than ever before.
Right.
By all logic, we should be working like 15-hour weeks and just spending the rest of the time on a beach somewhere.
And yet, we're not. We are collectively more exhausted, more burned out than at any point in history. It makes no sense.
It's what the sources are calling the grind culture paradox.
Exactly. We've optimized the output, we've optimized the software, but we've completely forgotten about the machine that's actually generating all of it,
Human being.
the human being.
And the stakes here are, well, they're terrifyingly high. I was looking through the source material we have today, and we have a huge stack from medical journals to financial strategies. And this one statistic from the World Health Organization, it just stopped me cold.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
They attribute 745,000 deaths in a single year from stroke and heart disease, and they link it directly to overworking.
It's a staggering number. It effectively classifies the grind, hustle culture, not as a lifestyle choice, but as a full-blown global public health crisis.
Wow.
And what's so fascinating and honestly disturbing is the tension driving this whole thing. On one hand, you have this economic landscape that equates perpetual productivity with moral worth.
Right. If you're not busy, you're lazy.
If you're not busy, you're lazy. If you don't answer that email in 3 minutes, you're not committed. But on the other hand, biologically, we are breaking. We just are not designed for this.
That's the perfect setup for our mission in this deep dive. We aren't just here to complain about work or say, hey, we all need a vacation.
No.
We're going to explore a really comprehensive strategy for what the sources call decoupling labor from burnout.
Right. And to do that, we have to synthesize 3 very different fields, which is really interesting. Usually, you read a business book or you read a health book.
They stay in their own lanes.
They stay in their lanes. Today, we're combining them. We're looking at medical research on occupational health, business strategy guides on how to scale, and these financial independence frameworks like the FIRE movement.
So the goal is to move from what you might call reactive hustling,
Which is where most people live.
to proactive systems.
I love that distinction.
It's great, isn't it? Moving from just reacting to all the noise to actually building a system that protects you from it.
So for everyone listening, whether you're an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or just someone feeling that crushing weight of the 9 to 5, this is about your nervous system.
As much as it is about career advice.
Exactly. It's about avoiding that identity crisis that happens when your job just completely eats your life.
So, should we start with the pathology? I feel like we have to understand exactly why we're breaking before we can even think about fixing it.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack the physiological impact first. Because I think a lot of us, myself included, assume burnout is just a feeling. Like, oh, I'm tired, or I need a nap.
Right. A mood.
Yeah, a mood. But the data suggests it's way more dangerous. There's something in the research called the 60-hour cliff.
This comes from the Journal of Occupational Health. They did this massive study looking at working hours and health outcomes. And what they found is that the risk of burnout, it doesn't just increase in a straight line.
So it's not like working 50 hours is just 10% worse than working 40.
Not at all. It's exponential.
Really?
Yeah. When you go from a 40-hour work week to a 60-hour work week, your risk of severe burnout and even cardiovascular events practically doubles.
It doubles.
It's a threshold. You cross that line and the damage just accelerates at a terrifying rate.
So that extra 20 hours isn't just more work. It's exponentially more damage to your whole system.
Precisely. And the biological mechanism driving this damage is the sympathetic nervous system.
Fight or flight response. We've all heard of that.
Right, the ancient wiring. In the wild, this system is designed for very short bursts. You see a lion, your cortisol spikes, you run, you survive, and then, and this is the crucial part, you rest. The system powers down.
But in the modern office, the lion looks a little different.
The lion is a deadline, it's a Slack notification, it's that unspoken pressure of an always-on culture.
I hate that sound.
We all do, because these little things trigger the exact same biological response as a predator in the grass. But here's the problem. Unlike the lion, the email doesn't go away. It lives in your pocket.
So we're living in a constant state of fight or flight.
A state of chronic sympathetic dominance, that's the clinical term. Your body is just flooded with cortisol and adrenaline all day, every day. It never gets the signal that the danger has passed.
And that's what leads to the health risks.
That's it. Heart disease, yes,
Yeah.
but also insulin resistance, chronic insomnia, severe musculoskeletal tension.
Yeah.
Your body is literally bracing for an attack that never, ever comes.
One of the most fascinating points for me in the medical sources was about the brain itself. Specifically, this idea of glucose depletion.
Ah, yes.
It perfectly explained why at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I can't even decide what to have for dinner, let alone make a big strategic decision.
That is real neuroscience at play. Your prefrontal cortex, that's the part of your brain that handles executive function, decision-making, impulse control, it's an energy hog.
It just burns through fuel.
It runs on glucose. Every single decision you make, every meeting you have to navigate, every email you carefully worded, it's literally draining that tank.
It's a fuel tank. I like that analogy.
It is. And if you don't have what the sources call rhythmic rest, and that means actual breaks, not just switching tabs to check Twitter.
Guilty.
We all are. But if you don't get that rest, you experience glucose depletion. And that leads to something called emotional flattening. You stop caring. You get irritable. Your ability to make good, rational decisions just plummets. You're running on empty.
Which is a perfect segue to the psychological side of this. The sources talk a lot about toxic productivity. I feel like I see this everywhere now.
It's this dangerous internal equation where value equals output.
My self-worth is tied to how much I get done today.
Exactly. And when you believe that, resting feels like a moral failure. You feel guilty for sitting on the couch.
That's where the panic monsters come in. I love that term.
It's so descriptive, isn't it? The cognitive rehearsal of worry.
Oh, I know the panic monsters intimately.
We all do. You're physically resting, maybe watching a movie, but your brain is it's running. It's rehearsing the emails you haven't sent or that meeting tomorrow. You believe that taking a break is a form of laziness, so you never actually truly mentally disengage.
And over time, that has to lead to the identity crisis we talked about.
It does. We'll get to the case studies later, but the common theme is that people get so deep into the grind, they literally don't know who they are without the stress.
It's like imposter syndrome on steroids.
That's a great way to put it. You feel like a fraud even when you're objectively successful because you've completely decoupled from your true self. You're just a vessel for work. And the fear is, if I stop running, I'll just disappear.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's bleak. We're biologically and psychologically frying ourselves by running this ancient hardware in a modern, toxic environment.
A pretty good summary.
But let's pivot to the solutions. The sources highlight some really powerful philosophical counter-movements, new ways to think about all this. The first big one is Cal Newport and his concept of slow productivity.
Newport is essential here because he's challenging the very definition of what productivity even is. His core argument is that we need to do fewer things,
Fewer things.
work at a more natural pace, and obsess over quality.
Okay, do fewer things. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But I can already hear people listening and saying, sure, if I do fewer things, I get fired. How does he square that circle?
He does it by contrasting slow productivity with what he calls pseudo-productivity.
Pseudo-productivity.
And this is what most of us do all day long. It's the appearance of busyness. It's replying to an email in 30 seconds to prove you're at your desk. It's jumping between 10 different Slack channels.
It's back-to-back meetings where nothing actually gets decided.
Exactly. It looks like work. It feels like work. But it's actually killing your real cognitive output.
So it's confusing activity with accomplishment.
That's the perfect way to put it. Newport argues that by drastically reducing the volume of that administrative busy work and focusing intensely on one or two major projects at a time, you actually produce more value in the long run.
Because you're not drowning in the overhead.
You're not. But there is a critique here too, right? We have a source from Jenny Odell.
Yes, and it's a really important reality check.
What's her take?
Odell argues that individual changes aren't enough. It's great to tell people to slow down, but what if the economic system actively punishes you for it?
That's a fair point.
She argues we need collective systemic changes, new norms, where slowness is seen as a prerequisite for quality, not some luxury reserved for the elite or the super wealthy.
That connects really well to the next idea from Paul Jarvis, the company of one.
This one really resonated with me because it questions the holy grail of business. Growth. Constant, endless growth.
Jarvis is fascinating. He asks the one question that almost nobody in business school ever asks. Why?
Why do we have to get bigger?
Why is bigger always better? He argues that growth, more often than not, just leads to bureaucracy, higher fixed costs, more meetings, more headaches.
So his philosophy is about finding your enough number.
The enough number. I love that phrase.
It's so powerful.
It's the point where you have autonomy and stability. The goal isn't market dominance. It's building a lifestyle business, a business that serves the owner's life.
Instead of the owner serving the business.
Precisely. It's about challenging that default assumption that you always need more. More revenue, more employees, more scale. Maybe. Maybe you don't.
And then, of course, we have the grandfather of all this, Tim Ferriss, and the 4-Hour Workweek. The sources break down his deal framework. Now, this book has been around for a while. Does this framework still hold up?
I would argue the tools have changed, but the framework itself is more relevant than ever.
So DEAL stands for?
Definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. It's a blueprint for escaping what he calls the deferred life plan.
The idea that you suffer for 40 years and then you retire at 65 and finally get to live your life.
If you even make it that long.
Right. So let's break those down. Definition is about fear setting.
Yes, this is crucial. Instead of just setting goals, you define your fears. You write down in detail the absolute worst-case scenario of making a change, like quitting your job or starting a side business.
And when you actually write it down,
you usually realize the worst case isn't death. It's maybe some temporary embarrassment or a financial setback you could recover from. Once you define the fear, the paralysis starts to lift.
Okay, then elimination.
That's the low information diet, the 80-20 rule. Getting rid of all the noise so you can focus on the few things that actually matter.
Then automation, which is building systems that run without you.
And finally, liberation. Using things like geo-arbitrage, working from anywhere, and taking mini retirements throughout your life, not just one big one at the end.
Okay, so we have the philosophy. We want to work slower. We want to find our enough. We want to liberate ourselves. But, philosophy doesn't pay the rent.
It does not.
So we need to get into the mechanics. How do you actually structure an income that allows for any of this? The sources call this the mechanics of scalability.
This is the critical bridge from theory to practice. The central trap for most people, especially if you're a freelancer, a consultant, a service provider, is the billable hour.
Trading time for money.
Exactly. And it is inherently unscalable. If you stop working, the money stops. Period.
And perversely, it actually incentivizes you to be slow.
It does. If you're paid by the hour, becoming more efficient actually costs you money. It's a broken model. To decouple your labor from burnout, you first have to decouple your time from your revenue.
So what are the solutions? The sources lay out a kind of hierarchy of business models.
The gold standard, the absolute peak, is SaaS software as a service. Think of Dropbox or Slack.
Right.
You build the code once, it lives in the cloud, and selling it to the 1,000th customer costs almost nothing more than selling it to the very first. The margins are incredible.
But let's be real, most of us are not software developers.
Exactly. Not everyone can go build the next big SaaS company.
So what's the next level down? Digital products.
This is accessible to almost anyone with some kind of expertise. We're talking ebooks, online courses, templates, presets for photographers.
So you create once.
You create the asset once, and it has zero marginal cost of replication. You can sell it infinitely while you're sleeping, while you're on vacation.
But my favorite one in the sources, and I think the most practical for a lot of our listeners who are currently in service jobs, is productized services. This feels like the perfect bridge.
It is the perfect bridge. It's about taking a bespoke service, something like, say, marketing consulting, and turning it into a product with a fixed scope and a fixed price.
Can you give us an example? How does that look in practice?
Sure. So instead of saying, I do marketing, which is vague and requires endless proposals, you say, I sell a fixed price SEO audit for $500. The client knows exactly what they get. You know exactly what you have to deliver.
So how does this actually help with burnout? I mean, you're still doing the work.
You are, but you eliminate the two biggest energy drains: scope creep and administrative chaos. You use standardization, you have standard operating procedures or SOPs, you use client portals.
So you're not writing a new proposal every single time.
Or negotiating the price every time. You turn a chaotic service into a streamlined, predictable assembly line. You know exactly what to do, how long it takes, and crucially, when you are done.
And that ties directly into the Muse concept from Ferriss.
Yes. The goal is to create one of these automated cash generators. The sources suggest a price point somewhere between, say, $75 and $300 is the sweet spot for these kinds of products.
Why that range specifically?
It's high enough to be profitable, but it's low enough that it's often an impulse buy for a business. It doesn't require weeks of sales calls and customer service handholding before they purchase.
So we have the business model. But even with a great business model, if your energy is trash, you are still going to burn out.
100%.
Which brings us to section 4, energy management versus time management.
This is such a fundamental paradigm shift. Most people, most productivity systems are all about managing time. They tell you to buy a planner, time block your day, squeeze every last minute. But the sources argue that time is finite. You only get 24 hours. Energy, on the other hand, is renewable. Most burnout isn't a time management problem. It's an energy mismanagement problem.
Let's talk about ultradian rhythms. This seems like the biological law that we're all just constantly breaking.
It is. We are biological organisms, not computers. We operate in cycles. And the ultradian rhythm is a cycle of about 90 to 120 minutes of high capacity, when your brain is sharp, focused, creative, followed by a necessary 20 to 30 minutes of recovery.
So the standard 8-hour workday, where you're expected to be on from 9 to 5, is basically just fighting biology.
Completely. We try to maintain peak focus for 4 or 5 hours straight, and it's impossible. The consequence is just diminishing returns. A task that might take you 30 minutes when you're in a peak state
At the top of that rhythm.
can take you 3 hours when you're in an energy trough. You're just staring at the screen, forcing it, getting frustrated. Fighting these natural rhythms is what leads to that feeling of just dragging yourself through mud all day.
The sources break energy down into 4 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about being physically tired.
Right. Physical is the foundation. Sleep, nutrition, movement. If you don't have that, nothing else works. But then you have emotional energy.
Resilience.
Exactly. How do negativity and conflict drain your tank? If you have one toxic client, the emotional energy they burn can prevent you from doing good work for your other 3 great clients.
And then mental and spiritual.
Mental energy is focus. The cost of task switching. Every time you switch from your main project to your email and back again, you leak energy. It's not a free transition.
And the spiritual.
Spiritual energy isn't necessarily religious. It's about purpose. Is your work aligned with your values? Working on something you hate burns energy twice as fast as working on something you believe in.
Really like the actionable tactic here, the energy audit.
It's so simple, but so revealing. For 2 weeks, you track your energy on a scale of 1 to 10 every hour that you're working. Just jot it down in a notebook.
And you'll start to see patterns.
You will. You might realize, wow, I am an absolute genius at 10 a.m. and I am a useless zombie at 3 p.m.
And then you can match the work to the energy level. You stop
Yeah.
trying to do deep creative work at 3 p.m.
Exactly. You do your admin then. You answer the easy emails. You do the low brain power stuff. You stop trying to swim upstream against your own biology.
Let's talk about money. Because
Yeah.
none of this works if you're terrified of not being able to pay your rent. We need a financial architecture for freedom. So the sources talk about the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, but specifically a variation called coast fire.
Yes, coast fire.
This was a new term for me, and I find it incredibly liberating. What is it?
Okay, so traditional fire is about saving up like 25 times your annual expenses so you can quit work forever. That's a huge number, maybe $2 million. It feels impossible for a lot of people.
Right.
Coast fire is different. It's about reaching a tipping point early in your career. You save aggressively for, say, 10 years until you have a pot of money that, thanks to the power of compound interest, will grow into a full retirement fund by the time you're 65 without you ever adding another penny to it.
So once you hit that number, you're basically done saving for retirement.
Retirement, yes.
Yes.
You are now coasting. And this is the magic part. It means you only need to earn enough money to cover your current living expenses. You don't have to save for the future anymore because the math is already doing that work for
That changes everything.
everything.
That means you can take a job that pays less but is more fulfilling. You can go part-time. You can start that business you've been dreaming of.
Exactly. It buys you freedom now in your 30s or 40s instead of making you wait until you're 65. It dramatically lowers your monthly burn rate. You just don't need that high-stress, high-paying job anymore.
The sources also contrast lean fire and fat fire. What's the difference there?
Lean fire is the minimalist approach. You plan on living on, say, $30,000 or $40,000 a year in retirement. It's much faster to achieve, but it requires a pretty big lifestyle change for most.
And fat fire.
Fat fire is the opposite. It's the abundance approach. You want the luxury lifestyle in retirement, so you need a massive nest egg. Coast fire sits in this beautiful middle ground. It secures your future, but it lets you enjoy the present.
And of course, just on a basic level, we have to mention emergency savings.
The psychological benefit of a solid emergency fund cannot be overstated. Money allows you to buy your way out of hassles.
That's a good way to put it.
Think about it. If your car breaks down and you have savings, it's an inconvenience. If you don't have savings, it's a full-blown crisis. That financial buffer just reduces your daily baseline stress level so significantly. It lowers the volume on that sympathetic nervous system we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so we have the philosophy, we have the business model, we have the energy management, and we have the financial plan. Now we need to defend it. Section 6 is about execution and defense, specifically automation and boundaries.
Automation is the solopreneur's secret weapon. We mentioned the muse concept, but this is the nitty-gritty of how it works. Using tools like Zapier as a kind of AI orchestration platform.
Give us some specific examples from the sources. How does this actually save you like 20 hours a week?
Okay, think about lead generation. Instead of manually checking your email and website form all day, you can have an automation that instantly routes a new inquiry from your website directly into your CRM.
Or onboarding. That's a huge time suck for service providers.
A massive one. You can set up a workflow where the second a client pays your invoice, the system automatically creates their shared Google Drive folders, sends them the contract to e-sign, and sends a welcome email with the next step.
And you don't touch any of it.
You don't touch it, it happens instantly, 2004/7. Which, by the way, really impresses the client. They think you have a whole team behind you, and you just saved yourself 45 minutes of boring admin work.
But automation only handles the tasks. Boundaries handle the people. And people are way harder.
People are harder.
The sources introduced this technique called Dear Man.
Yeah, this comes from dialectical behavior therapy, actually. It's an acronym. It stands for describe, express, assert, reinforce, stay mindful, appear confident, and negotiate. It's a structured way to assert your needs without burning bridges.
Let's get into the scripts. I love a good script. How do we handle scope creep?
The classic freelancer nightmare. The client asks for just one more little thing. Using this framework, the script is simple and polite. That falls outside our original scope. Would you like an estimate for that additional work?
It's so polite, but it's firm. It immediately reminds them that your time costs money.
Exactly. It forces them to actually value their own request. Or what about the after-hours text?
The 9 p.m. quick question.
The script is, I'm unplugged to recharge for the evening, but I'll jump on this first thing on Monday. You are actively training your clients how to treat you. If you answer at 9 p.m. once, that becomes the new expectation.
And the rush fee. This one is my favorite.
It's brilliant. A client needs something by tomorrow. The script. I can definitely rearrange my schedule to get this done for you, but it does require a 20% rush fee to prioritize it over other scheduled client work.
And suddenly, it's usually not that urgent after all.
9 times out of 10, they decide Monday is just fine. It puts a price on their manufactured urgency.
I love that. It protects your schedule.
Boundaries are the walls that protect your energy and your business model. Without them, no matter how good your system is, the grind will always creep back in.
We've covered a lot of theory here. Let's make this real. Let's talk about the pivot. The sources have some incredible case studies of people who actually did this.
These stories are so important because they ground all this theory in reality. Let's take Spencer Carter. He was a high-stress operations manager. The sources describe him as having high blood pressure. He was drinking heavily just to cope.
He was literally dying for his job.
He was. And he pivoted to archaeology.
Archaeology, why?
A complete 180. He took a massive pay cut, but he gained what he calls high empowerment. He's outside, he's doing work he loves, his health completely recovered. He realized the high salary just wasn't worth the future medical bills.
Then there's the story of Mila Hussein, a finance director.
Her story is intense. She actually suffered paralysis from stress. Her body literally shut down and refused to move.
That's terrifying.
And she pivoted to becoming a breathwork teacher. She used the very tool that saved her own life-breathing and nervous system regulation to build an entirely new career.
And Maze Al-Ali, from advertising, where her hair was falling out from stress, to a nutritionist in Ibiza.
I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The common thread in all these stories is the big WHY. They all reached a breaking point where they realized that professional status was not worth physical and mental destruction.
So they use reverse engineering.
Exactly. They stopped asking, what career can I get? And started asking, what is the life I actually want to live? And then built a career to support that life, not the other way around.
The sources also mentioned the mini retirement as part of this process.
This is so crucial for the transition. Sometimes you can't just pivot on a dime. You need a full stop, a sabbatical, but you have to plan for it. You need a practice budget to see how little you can realistically live on, and you have to be aware of re-entry shock when it's over.
But taking that time, 3 months, 6 months, a year, can completely reset your nervous system and give you the clarity you need.
It can change everything.
This has been a massive deep dive. We've gone from the biology of stroke risk all the way to the mechanics of Zapier automations. How do we synthesize all of this?
It comes down to this. It's a multidimensional approach. You cannot solve burnout just by sleeping more, and you can't solve it just by earning more money. It's the combination.
Right.
You need the scalable business model, so you stop trading time for money. You need to respect your biological rhythm, so you stop frying your brain. You need financial literacy, things like Coast Fire, to remove that deep survival fear. And you need ruthless essentialism to cut out all the noise.
It's a shift in identity from being a fear vending machine, just saying yes to everything that comes your way,
To being a sustainable professional. That's the goal, not success. Sustainability.
I want to leave everyone listening with a final thought from our outline. It's a provocative question. I want you to reflect on this concept of coast fire and slow productivity. If you realized today that you had already reached your financial tipping point, that your future was secure, legally and financially, how would your work change tomorrow?
That's a powerful question. Would you quit? Or would you finally just start working at a human pace?
The answer to that question might tell you everything you need to know about your current level of sustainability.
It really is the ultimate litmus test.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Go regulate that nervous system, and we'll see you next time.